Hi, this is Carol Harnett with a Work.Love.Play.Daily video blog, One Take. This particular post is related to a column that I wrote for HR Executive called Selling the Problem of Absence. For FCC regs, I need to remind you that I am hired and paid to write that column by HR Executive, although they do not require me to make these posts, nor do they influence them. I'm going to do another short snippet on what do you need to know about disability, and today I've been asked to comment on the impact of nurses on claim intake. And I may actually add in as well a comment about integration, coordination of workers' comp and disability, of medical and disability, which was covered somewhat in the column. So I'm going to maybe make this a 2-for-1 post. So let me talk first about nurses. I've had the privilege of doing quite a bit of research in and around disability in my years that I've been involved with it, both as a provider and as a person who worked in the disability insurance industry directly. Now I consult into the industry. What I can tell you is this. As I talked about in the post that went up on Wednesday night, essentially everybody moves to the middle. And here's what we know about nurse intake on disability claims. What we know is they largely make no impact on average duration or the amount of people who return to work when you compare them to a claim examiner. Now, in work that I had done a year-long study using a control group and a pilot group and comparing approaches and having claims referred to nurses at different points, 1 week, 2 week, and so on. What we found was that the first time you saw any impact in a year period time, statistically significant number of short-term disability claims, at 5 weeks, you began to see a slight impact, meaning that claims were shorter in duration when the nurse got involved at 5 weeks. However, it was not statistically significant. At the 6-week mark, however, if a claim was referred to a nurse at that point, there was indeed a statistically significant effect. Now, obviously, it wasn't on short-term claims, on claims that are shorter than 6 weeks. It wasn't even on intermediate length claims. It was on longer-term claims. So claims that would go to what's called the maximum duration, and depending on plan design, that could be 13 weeks, that could be 26 weeks. That is when the nurse was able to make a difference. So nurses on intake of short-term disability claims may make the claimant feel more comfortable. They may make the claimant feel better. That depends on just how you train your claim examiners versus the use of nurses. That, however, will not influence their return to work rate any differently than a claim examiner will, and it will not shorten duration any differently than a claim examiner will. It's at about the 6-week mark, if a nurse gets involved, that you will see an impact on the longer duration STD claims, particularly those between 13 and 26 weeks. So that's the first point. The second point is on this concept of integration and/or coordination of workers' comp and disability claims versus health and disability claims. And in the history of integration, at least around disability, the first integration point originally was medical workers' comp and disability, and it was a very, very hard product to sell. And you really saw that product go away. That came out about 14, 15 years ago, and it went away pretty rapidly, even about 14 years ago. So it was probably out there about a year and a half. And then you saw it evolve into workers' comp and disability. And originally it happened that way because tracking really wasn't amazingly helpful. You couldn't really do a good job of tracking a comp claim and a disability claim and knowing that people were or were not doing something called double dipping, meaning that they were filing both kinds of claims and being paid by both entities. In the period of time that kind of product first came out till now, the way data is managed has improved drastically, and the likelihood of that happening is really much smaller. So is there an impact on duration? And some people are saying that that it's about 5 days shorter than you'll see on average for carriers reporting. But again, in the post I had done yesterday, when you talk about regression to the mean and you talk about what really are the top carriers doing, that really does fall away, particularly if you look at a single carrier and what their average duration was pre doing integration and post. you really won't see any change. When they have to go to an outside source, the effect is diminished. There does appear, however, to be some promise in impact on duration in the combination of health and disability. And you are seeing some of the big carriers who are doing that starting to report that they're seeing shorter durations. For example, in the column that I wrote, Cigna is reporting about 13 calendar days shorter when they have both the workers' comp, both the disability and medical versus disability only. What I will tell you is, in this concept of decline effect, that as more claims enter the study pool will probably start to diminish in impact. It may not be 13 days. You may eventually see it be more like 5 days. But it's an influence worth following. And even if that does eventually diminish back to the mean, I think you will see that your employees are reporting greater customer service, better consumer satisfaction, and in a voluntary product, maybe even better participation. But that's speculation on my part. I should also note that Cigna is a client of mine, although I was not involved in the study that was referenced. So this is Carol Harnett with a fairly long Work.Love.Play.Daily one-take video blog addressing two things: the impact of nurses on claims and claim intake, and on the concept of integration of workers' comp disability and disability and medical. And realize these are highlights and can be discussed for hours probably. This is again Carol Harnett with the Work.Love.Play.Daily video blog, hoping that you're enjoying some wonderful work, some great love, and some awesome play. Take care.